Did you know that Adidas and Puma were started by two brothers who once worked together?
Their personal rivalry would also create two of the world's most powerful brands, Adolf's Adidas and Rudolf's Puma.
In 1924, Adolf Dassler Adi and his brother Rudolf Dassler Rudy ran a successful shoe company in Germany called the Dassler Schuhfabrik, which means Dassler Brothers Shoe Factory.
In 1924, the Dassler brothers took a bold step forward and officially founded Dassler Schuhfabrik.
They made shoes for athletes, and their shoes became popular when Jesse Owens wore them during the 1936 Olympics.
At the Berlin Olympics, Black American Jesse Owens made history by winning 4 gold medals, setting 3 world records and breaking or equaling 9 Olympic records. And he did all that while wearing Adi and Rudy's Dassler shoes.
But after World War II, the brothers had personal disagreements. It's unclear exactly what happened, but it's believed they didn't get along because they had different ideas about running the business. The situation got worse, and in 1948, they could no longer work together and split their company's assets.
In 1948, the brothers split their company in half. Adi took the north side of the river and named his company Adidas. Rudy took the south side and named his company Puma.
So Rudy started Puma in Herzogenaurach, Germany in 1948, and Adi started Adidas in the same town in 1949. Their rivalry grew so strong that even the town became divided.
The rivalry between the two companies was so great that Puma and Adidas were reminiscent of rival gangs.
People in the town took sides, with some supporting Adidas and some supporting Puma. Some stores only sold Adidas shoes and clothes, while others only sold Puma items. Even the local sports teams chose one brand over the other.
Herzogenaurach, their Bavarian hometown of approximately 24,000 people, split into 2 warring camps. There were Adidas bakeries and Puma bakeries, Adidas pubs and Puma pubs. Intermarriage between Adidas families and Puma families was actively discouraged.
Competition helps you grow, embrace challenges, and become better and stronger. If you've been here before, drop a hashtag Believe in the comments below so I can feature you here in a future video. And if you're new, welcome to Believe Nation, the only channel that helps you believe in yourself daily, one video at a time. Imagine walking into a local grocery store in your hometown. You walk up to the counter to buy a simple loaf of bread. The cashier doesn't look at your face. The cashier looks straight down at your feet. He sees the wrong brand of shoes on your feet. He shakes his head, takes the bread off the counter, and tells you to leave. Sounds like a scene from a movie, but this was the real life in the small German town of Herzogenaurach. Two brothers started a tiny shoe company together. They worked side by side. They conquered the sports world. Then they started to hate each other, and their hatred became so bitter and so toxic that it split their family forever. It split their massive company in half. It even split their entire town right down the middle. One brother started Adidas, the other brother started Puma. They built 2 of the biggest brands in human history. They lived in the same small town, but they never spoke to each other again. So today we're going to deep dive into the greatest family rivalry, I think, in business history. We're not just covering their whole lives. We're going to look at exactly why Adolf and Rudolf Dassler went to war, and more importantly, uncover the exact lessons that you need to use competition to win in your own business. The brothers who built an empire together. So Adolf Dassler was known as Adi. His older brother Rudolf was known as Rudy. In 1924, they decided to start a business together. They called it the Dassler Brothers Shoe Factory. They did not start in some fancy office. They started in their mother's small washroom. Germany was going through terrible times after World War I. Electricity was not reliable. The brothers often had to power their equipment by pedaling a stationary bike. They were the perfect team because they were completely different. Adi was the quiet genius. He was a craftsman. He loved sitting alone and designing better shoes. And Rudy was the loud, outgoing salesman. He loved to talk to people. He loved making deals. They worked hard and their shoes gained a strong local reputation. But the real breakthrough happened in 1936. The Olympic Games were happening in Berlin. Adi Dassler packed a suitcase full of his newly designed shoes. These shoes had special spikes on the bottom. Adi drove to the Olympic Village. He found the famous American runner Jesse Owens. He convinced Owens to wear the Dassler shoes during the races. Jesse Owens wore those shoes and won 4 gold medals. Suddenly, the whole world saw the Dassler shoes. Athletes everywhere wanted them. Business exploded. Before World War II started, the brothers were selling 200,000 pairs of shoes every single year. They had fame, they had money, they had an empire. But success does not always bring peace. Often success just turns up the heat. And the heat was about to burn their relationship to the ground. the whispers of war, and the ultimate betrayal. The tensions between Adi and Rudy started slowly. They began to argue about how to run the factory. Rudy felt Adi was trying to take total control of the business decisions. Adi felt Rudy was too focused on sales and didn't care enough about the quality of the shoes. Their wives also didn't get along. They all lived in the same large house, which made the arguments worse. Then World War II started. The stress of the war pushed the brothers to the breaking point. Historians point to one specific night in 1943 as the moment the relationship died. The town was being bombed by Allied planes. Rudy and his family ran into a bomb shelter. A few minutes later, Adi and his wife ran into the exact same shelter. As Adi entered the dark room, he said, "The dirty bastards are back again." Adi was talking about the warplanes dropping bombs outside, but Rudy was deeply paranoid. Rudy firmly believed that Adi was talking about him and his family. That one sentence destroyed everything. Rudy never forgave Adi. Things got much worse. Later in the war, Rudy was sent to a prisoner camp. Rudy was convinced that Adi had given information to the authorities to get him arrested. Rudy thought Adi wanted him locked up so Adi could steal the whole company. After the war, the American military investigated the brothers. During these investigations, the brothers actively betrayed each other. They each tried to blame the other brother to save themselves. The trust was completely gone. The love was dead. In 1948, they realized they could not spend another day in the same building. They decided to break their massive company apart. They divided the factory equipment, they divided the patents, they even made the employees choose which brother they wanted to go work for. The Dassler brothers' shoe factory was dead. The war of the brands had just begun. The town with the bent necks. The split in 1948 was pretty vicious. Rudy took his share of the business, walked across the small river of Alrock, and started a new company. He called it Puma. In 1948, Adi stayed on his side of the river. He took his first name and his last name and combined them. He called his company Adidas. The family fight didn't stay inside the family. It swallowed the entire town. The river became a strict physical border. You were either an Adidas person or you were a Puma person. There was no middle ground. The town quickly earned a strange nickname. It was called the town of bent necks. People were called this because whenever two people met on the street, they immediately looked down at the other person's shoes. If you wore Adidas, you only talked to people wearing Adidas. If you wore Puma, you only talked to people wearing Puma. The division controlled daily life. The town had specific Adidas pubs where only Adi's workers could drink, and there were specific Puma pubs for Rudy's workers. If you were a plumber and you wanted to fix the pipes at the Adidas factory, you better not be caught wearing Puma shoes. The local bakeries took sides. The local butchers took sides. If a worker from the Adidas factory started dating a worker from the Puma factory, it was treated like a terrible scandal. Families would refuse to speak to their own children if they married someone from the enemy brand. Even the town's sports teams were dragged into the war. The town had two local football clubs. ASV was supported by Adidas and One FC was supported by Puma. The rivalries on the field were brutal because the players were fighting for the honor of their local factories. Also, if you want to take real action after this video, I made a free worksheet for you. It covers the top lessons from today, gives you space to write your biggest takeaways, and helps you build a simple action plan. It's 100% free. Just check the link in the description to go grab it. I'll see you there. The brothers used this town division to fuel their global ambitions. They spied on each other constantly. If workers at Puma saw a delivery truck bringing new leather to Adidas, they would run to tell Rudy. If Adidas released a new football shoe, Puma would rush to release a lighter one. The hatred was a daily fire that kept both factories running at maximum speed. The power of the enemy. So why did this terrible family tragedy create two of the most successful sports brands in history? The answer lies in the intense power of competition. When you have a comfortable lead in business, you often get lazy, you sleep in, you stop taking risks. But when you have a bitter enemy right across the river, you can't relax for a single second. The pain of losing to your enemy is just too great. Science proves that rivalries physically change how hard we work. A major study by researcher Gavin Kilduff at New York University looked at the psychology of competition. He studied long-distance runners. He found that when a runner competed against a known rival, they ran significantly faster than when they raced against complete strangers. The emotional connection to defeating a specific enemy pushes a human brain and body beyond normal limits. Adi and Rudy hated each other, but that hatred forced them to innovate faster than anyone else in the world. Adi was obsessed with beating Puma on the football field. He worked day and night to invent the first football boots with screw-in studs. The shoes helped the German national team win the 1954 World Cup in muddy conditions. Rudy was obsessed with beating Adidas in marketing. He pushed Puma to sponsor massive global stars like Pele to prove Puma was the cooler brand. They fought in the courts over their patents. They fought at the Olympics over the athletes. They fought in the stores over the shelf space. If they had stayed together, they might have stayed a comfortable, medium-sized German shoe company. By splitting apart and becoming mortal enemies, they built two global empires that changed the sports world forever. Lessons for entrepreneurs. Okay, so you don't need to ruin your family to build a great business, but you must absolutely learn the hidden strategies inside the Dassler brothers story. And so here are some of the deepest lessons you can apply to your life and your business right now. Lesson number 1, use anger as motivation, not poison. The Dassler brothers were furious with each other, but they did not sit at home crying about the past. They channeled that anger into their work. So when you face a setback or someone insults your business, don't waste that energy complaining or crying. Take that dark energy when it comes and pour it into making your product better. Let the success of your competitors bother you just enough to wake you up earlier in the morning. Competition helps you grow. So embrace the challenges to become better and stronger. Lesson number 2, force your audience to choose. So that small German town took sides because the brands had a clear identity. Now, you don't want customers to just like your product. You want customers who defend your product. And to get that kind of loyalty, you have to stand for something specific. Adidas stood for engineering and quiet performance. Puma stood for bold energy and loud marketing. When you try to please everyone, you please no one. So be bold enough to make some people dislike you, and the people who love you will love you even more. Lesson number 3, differentiation is your greatest weapon. Adi and Rudy succeeded because they stopped trying to do the exact same things. Adi knew he was a terrible salesman, so he stayed in the workshop and obsessed over the athlete's needs. Rudy knew he was not a great designer, so he focused entirely on brilliant marketing and getting his shoes on the feet of celebrities. Find the one specific thing that you do better than anyone else in your market. Stop trying to fix all of your weaknesses. Double down entirely on your greatest strength. Lesson number 4, the market is bigger than you think. When the brothers split, people thought the town was too small to support 2 massive shoe factories. They thought one brother would eventually bankrupt the other brother. They were wrong. The intense competition actually expanded the entire market for sports shoes. By constantly fighting to be the best, they convinced the whole world that athletic shoes were important. So don't look at your competitors as people just stealing your slice of the pie. Look at them as people helping you make the entire pie much bigger. Lesson number 5, speed is driven by paranoia sometimes. The workers in the town worked incredibly fast because they knew the factory just across the river was working just as hard as them. You must build a sense of urgency in your own business. Even if you don't have a real enemy across the street, you can invent one in your mind. Assume someone is working right now to steal your customers. Assume someone is building a better version of your product right now. Use a healthy version of paranoia so you can move faster. The Dassler brothers went to their graves without ever making peace. They are buried in the same cemetery in their small town. But even in death, they were placed as far away from each other as possible. Their personal story is a tragedy, but their business story is really helpful and shows the power of just pressure. They prove that comfort becomes the enemy of greatness. They prove that the hardest challenges in your life can become the exact tools that you use to then go off and build your empire. So look at your business today. Look at the competitors that you are afraid of. Stop hiding from them. Step up to the line, look them in the eye, and use their presence to make yourself stronger. And congratulations, you're one video closer to who you're meant to be. Believe. Now let's learn how Phil Knight borrowed $50 from his dad and changed the world forever by building Nike. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, was $50,000 in debt, facing bankruptcy, and on the verge of losing everything. But instead of walking away, he fought through the darkest moments of his life and turned his passion for running shoes into one of the most powerful brands in the world. Today, Nike is worth billions. Phil Knight started with a dream: bring high-quality Japanese running shoes to America. He borrowed $50 from his father, which was all he had to get started. But things weren't easy. He faced rejection after rejection. His first company, Blue Ribbon Sports, barely scraped by, struggling to make enough money to stay afloat. Knight spent sleepless nights stressing over how he was going to pay off the bills. He even considered giving up. The pressure was immense. Knight was living in his car, fighting for every sale. He was deeply in debt, $50,000 in the hole, and yet he couldn't bring himself to quit. With no way out, he took a massive risk, rebranding the company and betting everything on Nike. It was his make or break, and it worked. Nike wasn't an instant success, but Phil Knight's relentless drive, passion, and belief in his vision turned it into the global powerhouse it is today. The swoosh became a symbol of perseverance, and Nike became a brand that inspired millions around the world. Phil Knight was broke, overwhelmed, and ready to quit. But he didn't give up. He kept going. What about you? When things get tough, will you walk away or will you keep fighting for your dream? Your breakthrough could be just around the corner. Keep pushing. Phil Knight's life reads like a Hollywood script. In the late 1960s, he was $50,000 in debt and sleeping in his car, fighting to save a tiny running shoe business. Banks kept calling his loans, his Japanese supplier threatened to cut him off, and his dream was on the edge of bankruptcy. Yet Knight refused to quit. He gambled everything on a new brand called Nike and transformed a shoestring startup into a global powerhouse worth billions. Today, Knight and his wife Penny donate billions of dollars to cancer research and education. And this video dives into Knight's journey from shy accountant to co-founder of Nike, the struggles he went through, his leadership lessons, and the legacy he is building through philanthropy. By the end, you'll understand how persistence, passion, and purpose turned a $50 loan into a global empire and how you can apply those lessons to your own dreams. Roots, Portland kid with a dream. Phil Knight was born in Portland, Oregon on February 24, 1938. His father owned the Oregon Journal newspaper, so Phil grew up surrounded by stories but rarely received pocket money. His father believed children should earn their own way. At Cleveland High School, he ran middle distance track but wasn't a star. He enrolled at the University of Oregon in 1955 and joined legendary coach Bill Bowerman's track team. Bowerman tinkered with shoes to shave seconds off his runners' times, and this obsession with performance ignited Knight's curiosity. After graduating with a business degree in 1959, Knight served a year in the U.S. Army and then attended Stanford Business School. At Stanford, he wrote a paper arguing that Japanese running shoes could undercut dominant German brands because of lower labor costs. This assignment planted the seed for Nike. It taught Knight that business plans can start as simple ideas and that passion for a hobby like running can become a business. A $50 loan and a trip to Japan. Knight didn't jump straight into business though. After Stanford, he sold encyclopedias and worked as a CPA, but the shoe idea wouldn't leave him alone. He borrowed $50 from his father and flew to Kobe, Japan in 1962. There at the Onitsuka Tiger factory, he cold pitched a distribution deal for Tiger running shoes in the United States. Knight hadn't even chosen a company name, so when an executive there asked for his firm, he blurted out Blue Ribbon Sports. He returned home with sample shoes and mailed a pair to his old coach, Bill Bowerman. Bowerman loved the lightweight Tiger design and offered to join Knight as an equal partner. Each man invested $500 and Blue Ribbon Sports was born. For the next several years, Knight juggled two jobs. By day, he worked as an accountant and taught at Portland State. By night, he sold shoes from the trunk of his Plymouth Valiant. He drove the track meets up and down the West Coast, hustling one pair at a time, often sleeping in his car. Bowerman modified the Onitsuka shoes and created the Tiger Cortez, which soon became a hit among runners. Blue Ribbon Sports doubled sales almost every year, and by 1969, revenue topped $1 million. Knight finally quit his day job and committed to the business full-time. Near collapse and the birth of Nike. Success didn't come easily. By 1971, Blue Ribbon Sports was selling millions of dollars worth of shoes, but still owed banks large amounts of money. Onitsuka threatened to cancel his distribution agreement and was looking for another partner. Banks refused to extend credit because Blue Ribbon lacked equity. Faced with losing everything, Knight made a bold decision. He would create his own brand and control his supply chain. A young employee named Jeff Johnson dreamed of the name Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. Knight wasn't sold on it, but adopted it temporarily. He commissioned graphic design student Carolyn Davidson to create a logo. She drew the famous swoosh and was paid $35. Years later, Knight gave her a diamond ring and 500 shares of Nike stock to thank her. Bowerman used his wife's waffle iron to experiment with rubber soles, creating a lightweight, grippy tread that became the first bespoke Nike shoe. Blue Ribbon sued Onitsuka for breach of contract and won the right to keep selling the Cortez and received $400,000 in damages. Nike launched in 1971 with its own manufacturing, bolder marketing, and relentless hustle from its founder. Even then, the company almost died several times. U.S. Customs once demanded $25 million in import duties, which would have bankrupted the business. Knight fought the case for 3 years, helped change the law, and eventually settled for $9 million. Sprint to the top. Air Jordan, just do it and go in public. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Nike exploded. The company signed Olympic runners, introduced cushioning innovations, and went public in 1980, giving Nike the capital to expand. Bowerman's waffle-soled shoes gained traction with everyday athletes. In 1984, Nike signed a rookie basketball player named Michael Jordan, who became the face of the Air Jordan line. Advertising agency Weeden & Kennedy coined the slogan, "Just Do It," in 1988. It tapped into the company's ethos of pushing beyond comfort zones. Nike also faced criticisms for labor conditions in its overseas factories. In the 1990s, activists accused the company of using child labor and sweatshops. Knight initially denied the impact, but later overhauled Nike's supply chain by implementing independent monitoring and raising the standards. Personal loss and humility. Now, success didn't shield Knight from tragedy. In 2004, his son Matthew died in a scuba diving accident. Knight later said the loss aged him and changed his outlook on life. He funded the Matthew Knight Arena at the University of Oregon in his son's memory. This personal pain deepened his commitment to philanthropy and reminded him that no amount of wealth can prevent heartbreak. It also reinforced one of his most famous quotes: "The cowards never started and the weak died along the way. That leaves us." Facing grief, Knight kept going. Giving back. Billion-dollar philanthropy. Knight's career evolved from selling shoes to giving away billions. In August 2025, he and Penny announced a $2 billion gift to the Oregon Health and Science University's Knight Cancer Institute. The donation is the largest single gift ever to a U.S. university. The Knights said they were excited about the transformational potential of cancer research, diagnostics, and care, and believed a self-governed institute within OHSU would accelerate progress. OHSU's director, Dr. Brian Drucker, noted that the Knights' earlier $100 million gift in 2008 and $500 million pledge in 2013 helped revolutionize cancer detection and treatment. This new gift will expand clinical trials, provide nutrition and counseling services, and set a new benchmark for philanthropy. But beyond cancer research, the Knights have poured money into education and community development. They donated more than $500 million each to the University of Oregon and Stanford University. In 2023, they pledged $400 million to Portland's 1803 Fund to revitalize the historically Black Albina neighborhood. Through the Knight Foundation, they give away roughly 3% of Nike's pre-tax profits annually, supporting youth programs like the Girl Effects and scholarships. Forbes estimated that the couple have donated over $4 billion to charity and still own roughly 20% of Nike. Phil Knight's philanthropy shows that success becomes meaningful when it's shared. Leadership lessons: what the shoe dog teaches us. Knight's memoir, Shoe Dog, and his interviews reveal powerful leadership lessons that apply far beyond athletics. Number 1, find your passion and stick with it. Knight sold shoes out of his car for years because he loved running. Passion fueled him through the rejections, long nights, and the debt. Find a cause that energizes you. It will sustain you when all these obstacles come at you. Next, hire people who share the mission. Many early Nike employees were runners or track enthusiasts, united by a sense to build better shoes. Hiring people who align with your purpose creates a culture where innovation thrives. Next, empower your team. Knight believes that leaders shouldn't micromanage. He once said, "Don't tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do and let them surprise you." Trusting talented people led to breakthroughs like the Waffle Sole and Air Jordan. Next, persist through failures. When Customs demanded $25 million, when Onitsuka tried to squeeze him out, when the banks were pulling his loans, Knight kept going. His motto, "The only time you must not fail is the last time you try." Every failure is a lesson on your path to success. Next, give back. Building a company is only half the story. Knight's philanthropy shows that true fulfillment comes from investing in others and leaving the world better than you found it. Now it's your turn to just do it. Phil Knight's journey from a $50 loan to a $2 billion gift shows us the power of perseverance. He began with a simple idea, a borrowed $50 and a trunk full of shoes, and he overcame debt, rejection, legal battles to create Nike, a brand synonymous with victory. Along the way, he lost a son, he faced public criticism, and fought with the ethical complexities of a global supply chain. Yet he never stopped moving forward. So the next time your dream feels impossible, remember Knight's words. Let everyone else call your idea crazy. Just keep going. Now let's learn the incredible journey of Louis Vuitton to building a $500 billion brand. Imagine this, you're 13 years old, no money and no support, yet you decide to walk 300 miles alone to chase a dream. Sounds impossible, right? That's exactly what Louis Vuitton did. In 1835, Louis Vuitton left his tiny French village with nothing but a dream of making a name for himself in Paris. He trekked on foot for over 2 years, 292 miles of walking, sleeping in barns and doing odd jobs just to survive. Why? Because he believed he was meant for something more. That grueling journey forged his resilience and built a foundation of an empire. From tragedy to determination. Louis' early life was filled with hardship. He was born in 1821 to a farmer and miller in a small village. His mother died when he was just 10, and his father's new wife, especially his wicked stepmother, made his life miserable. By 13, Louis had had enough. He decided to change his environment and carve his own path. He packed what little he had and ran away from home, aiming for bustling Paris. Think about the guts that took, a teenager from the countryside, utterly alone, daring to step into the unknown. For over 2 years, Louis made his way towards Paris, covering roughly 300 miles on foot. He stopped along the way to work and earn food, learning carpentry and whatever skills he could to keep going. No horse, no carriage, just sheer willpower. That kind of determination is something entrepreneurs know well. Research even shows that early adversity can fuel resilience and an entrepreneurial spirit. People who face hardship young often develop a won't-quit attitude crucial for success. Louis Vuitton lived that truth. Every blister on his feet was building his determination to keep moving forward. And science backs this up. A study found individuals who experienced childhood challenges were more likely to become entrepreneurs. Why? Because the will to survive and overcome hardships can be more important than raw intelligence in the business world. Louis' journey was proof. By the time he finally limped into Paris at 16, he wasn't just a boy from the farm anymore. He was a young man forged by adversity, hungry to make something of himself. Apprenticeship, mastering a craft in Paris. When Louis arrived in Paris in 1837, the city was booming, full of wealthy travelers, craftsmen, and opportunities he'd never imagined in his tiny village. He had no connections, so he begged for work until finally landing an apprenticeship with a successful box maker named Romain Maréchal. Now, box making in those days was a serious trade. Think high-end custom luggage, not just wooden crates. Louis swept floors, ran errands, and most importantly, learned everything he could about crafting quality trunks and packing items to perfection. Now, here's the thing, Louis outworked everyone around him. He had slept in barns and endured hunger to get here. He wasn't about to waste the opportunity. He poured himself into learning the craft, and within a few years, this scrappy teenager from the country became known as the best box maker in Paris. Picture that, a newcomer with no formal education or money, outshining older craftsmen in the capital of fashion and luxury. How? Obsessive dedication and pride in his work. He wasn't just making trunks, he was building a reputation. He understood something every entrepreneur should remember. Your work is your resume. Louis' attention to detail was second to none. He would carefully measure, cut, and join boxes that could securely carry the most delicate gowns and hats of the aristocracy. Word spread around town that if you wanted your possessions packed safely for travel, young Louis Vuitton was the guy to see. One of my favorite lessons from this chapter of Louis' life is about skill and patience. In today's world of overnight success hype, Louis spent 17 years as an apprentice, honing his craft. 17 years. How many of us are willing to put in that kind of time to become truly great at something? He reminds us that mastery matters. By mastering his craft, Louis set the stage to later build a brand that would stand for quality. Your takeaway? Whatever your business is, commit to being the best at it. It might not happen fast, but as Louis' story shows, the world notices when you put in the work. The opportunity of a lifetime. After years of perfecting his skills, Louis got a break that many only dream of. In 1853, Empress Eugenia de Montigno, the wife of Emperor Napoleon III, needed someone she could trust to pack and protect her extravagant wardrobe for travel. This was the Empress of France, the most stylish woman in the world, and she handpicked Louis Vuitton as her personal box maker and packer. Talk about a game-changing client. Louis seized this opportunity with both hands. He personally ensured every one of the Empress's lace gowns, hats, and jewels was meticulously packed for her trips between palaces. He delivered excellence, and in return, he gained something priceless: word of mouth among the elite. Serving her opened doors to a whole new class of wealthy clients. Suddenly, Louis Vuitton wasn't just a skilled tradesman. He was becoming a status symbol. If the Empress trusted him, every aristocrat wanted Louis' trunks for their own travels. This is a huge entrepreneurial lesson. When your moment comes, knock it out of the park. Louis did such a great job that the Empress's patronage had lucrative repercussions, catapulting him into fame among the rich and famous. By 1854, with royal and elite demands surging, Louis felt confident enough to start his own company. He left his apprenticeship and opened Louis Vuitton Maletier, his own workshop in Paris. Now, pay attention to how Louis positioned his brand from day one. The sign outside his first shop boldly announced, "Securely packs the most fragile objects, specializing in packing fashions." Think about that marketing. It's genius. In a short phrase, he told customers that if you have something delicate or valuable, he's the one who will protect it. He was selling peace of mind and quality, not just boxes. It's the same principle I teach entrepreneurs. Lead with what problem you solve or what value you bring. Louis was solving a big problem for 19th century travelers. Their stuff got ruined on bumpy carriage rides, and he made sure everyone knew his solution: sturdy, luxurious trunks. Innovating in industry, the trunk that changed travel. Starting his own shop was just the beginning. Louis didn't settle for the status quo in luggage. He reinvented it. At the time, travel trunks had domed lids. They were clunky and you couldn't stack them on top of each other. They were curved, so the water would run off during voyages. Louis thought, why not make a flat top trunk that's waterproof? By 1858, he introduced a revolutionary flat top trunk covered in durable canvas. This might sound minor, but it changed everything. Louis' new trunks were lighter, airtight, waterproof, and completely stackable, a game changer for world travelers. Suddenly, luggage could be loaded on the trains and steamships in neat piles, no wasted space. His signature gray canvas wasn't just for looks, it made the trunks hard-wearing and odorless, unlike the musty leather trunks of competitors. In short, he solved travelers' pain points: bulk, weight, water damage, odor. Innovation 101. Vintage Louis Vuitton trunks like these became symbols of innovation in travel. Louis' 1858 flat-top design, which was lightweight, waterproof, and stackable, revolutionized luggage for the world's adventures. The response to Louis' trunk was overwhelming. Demand exploded, so much that he had to expand into a larger workshop outside Paris just to keep up. Louis Vuitton was no longer just a person. It was becoming the luxury luggage brand. If you were a big deal in the late 1800s, you owned a Louis Vuitton trunk for your voyages. And Louis kept innovating. He introduced new canvas patterns and designs to stay ahead of copycats. Yes, even in the 19th century, he had knockoffs to fight. His vision was not just to make another trunk, but to set the standard for an entire industry. So for you as an entrepreneur, think about what Louis did here. He took a product everyone thought was as good as it could get, a trunk, and asked, how can I make this better? Innovation is often solving practical problems in a creative way. Louis' flat trunk seemed obvious in hindsight, but it took his insight and courage to break from tradition and try it. So ask yourself, what's a pain point in your industry that no one has fixed yet? Dare to be the one who fixes it. Louis' story shows that innovators become industry leaders. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Louis' trunks were so good that they even won awards. In 1867, he showcased his creations at the World's Fair in Paris and earned a bronze medal for his designs. Later in 1889, he took home a gold medal at another World's Fair. The world was recognizing what Louis' customers already knew. His blend of craftsmanship and innovation was unparalleled. Building a global luxury brand. By the late 19th century, Louis Vuitton had gone from runaway teenager to acclaimed master craftsman. But perhaps the most incredible part is that his impact kept growing even beyond his lifetime. Louis ran his workshop until he passed away at age 72 in 1892. He had spent decades building a name synonymous with quality. But But he wasn't just building for one generation. He was building a legacy. His son Georges Vuitton took over the business and he was just as savvy. Here's a cool example of turning problem into opportunity. Counterfeiting. Louis' popular trunks were getting copied left and right. Some problems never change. So in 1896, Georges introduced the famous LV monogram canvas. Those interlocking L and V with floral patterns, partly to differentiate authentic Vuitton goods from the fakes. It was one of the first examples of a luxury brand creating a signature pattern as a protective measure. How's that for being ahead of the curve? More than a century later, that monogram is one of the most recognizable motifs in fashion. Okay, let's fast forward. The company that Louis founded kept expanding. New bag designs in the 1900s, the iconic steamer bag, which is basically a portable wardrobe, and many others. Jump to today, and Louis Vuitton is the undisputed king of luxury. The brand has expanded from trunks to handbags, clothing, shoes, and more, but it never lost the core values that Louis started with: quality, craftsmanship, and innovation. How successful is it? Consider this. Louis Vuitton, as part of LVMH, became the first European company to hit a $500 billion market cap in 2023. That valuation made LVMH's CEO, Bernard Arnault, the richest person in the world at the time. Hear that again. From an impoverished teenager runaway to a brand that anchors a $500 billion empire. That's incredible, right? Louis' name is now the most valuable luxury brand on the planet. And LVMH, the conglomerate that owns Louis Vuitton and some other luxury houses, it sits at the very top of the global luxury market. As of a recent report, Louis Vuitton was ranked the #1 luxury brand worldwide, above the likes of Chanel and Hermes. The empire Louis began has truly multiplied beyond what even he might have imagined. Bernard Arnault, the modern business titan behind LVMH, once highlighted the brand's limitless potential. He said, "When I took over Louis Vuitton, everyone said, it's already so big. What more can you do?" And since then, we've multiplied that success tenfold. That mentality that there is always room to grow, always another level of success, echoes Louis' own story of relentless ambition. But here's the key. None of this, the $500 billion valuation, the global stores, the celebrity ad campaigns, would exist if Louis Vuitton at 13 hadn't dared to take that first step onto the road to Paris. It's a powerful reminder that great things often have very humble beginnings. And that leads us to the lessons that we could draw from his journey. Entrepreneurial lessons from Louis Vuitton's journey. Louis Vuitton's life isn't just a feel-good story. It's a masterclass in entrepreneurship and personal growth. So let's break down 5 big lessons from his journey that you can apply to your own business and life. Number 1, use adversity as fuel. Louis turned a painful childhood into motivation. So instead of letting tragedy break him, he let it build his resilience. Many great entrepreneurs have done the same. Research shows that early challenges can forge the resilience and creativity needed to succeed in business. So don't wish for easier times. Use your hard times to toughen up and sharpen your edge. Number 2, change your environment if it's holding you back. If Louis had stayed in his tiny village with an abusive step-parent, there'd be no Louis Vuitton brand today. He literally walked away from a toxic environment to find one where he could thrive. Now, you might not need to trek 300 miles, but take a look at your environment. The people in it, the influencers, the habits that are around you. Are they pushing you forward or pulling you down? And sometimes you have to create the right environment for success, whether that means finding more supportive mentors, a more inspiring community, like right here in Believe Nation, or even moving to where the opportunities are. Surround yourself with people and places that elevate you. Number 3, master your craft. Louis spent years learning and perfecting his craft before expecting massive success. He earned the Empress's trust by first being excellent at what he did. Whatever your hustle is, become damn good at it. As I often say, your success will come from the value that you bring. Louis brought unparalleled craftsmanship. What will you bring? Commit to lifelong learning and improvement. It might be tedious now, but it pays off when high-profile opportunities come knocking because you are the best. Number 4, innovate to solve real problems. Louis didn't innovate just for innovation's sake. He did it to solve customers' problems. Heavy, non-stackable trunks. That's why his ideas took off, because they made travelers' lives easier. So ask yourself, what frustrates my customers? What problems can I solve for them in a better way? Then be bold and do it differently from everyone else. Innovation is the lifeblood of lasting business. Louis' flat trunk was a risky bet against tradition, but it paid off and set his brand apart from all his competitors. And number 5, seize opportunities and over-deliver. When Louis got his chance with the Empress, he over-delivered. He treated packing clothes like an art form, and that excellence snowballed into bigger things. Your Empress moment might come in the form of a big client, an investor, or a platform to showcase your talent. Crush it. Treat that opportunity with utmost care and deliver more than expected. You never know who's watching or what one good break can lead to. As the saying goes, success happens when preparation meets opportunity. Louis was prepared after years of hard work, and when that opportunity came, he shone. Each of these lessons can make a huge difference on your entrepreneurial journey. Louis' story is extreme. Not everyone will walk 300 miles or start a global company, but the principles hold true for all of us. Whether you're launching a new startup, you're growing a small business, or you're just working on your personal goals right now, remember, your past challenges can be strengths. Your environment matters. Mastery takes time. Innovation is key. And when you get a chance, knock it out of the park. Believe in your own journey. The story of Louis Vuitton is not just history, it's motivation for you right now. Think about it. Louis was a poor teenager with no advantages. If he could go from sleeping in hay lofts to shaking up the luxury world, what's stopping you from pursuing your dream? Next time you feel like quitting or you catch yourself thinking, I just don't have what it takes, remember Louis Vuitton. He had every excuse to give up. He had poverty, loss, rejection, but he chose to believe in his vision when no one else did. And because he believed, we have that iconic brand today. So here's a practical challenge for you. Take one step today that your future self will thank you for. It could be a small step. It could be sending that email, designing that prototype, making that phone call that you've been afraid to make. Great journeys begin with one single step. Louis' journey to Paris began by stepping out of his front door. What step can you take out of your comfort zone today? Do it. Also, notice something important. Louis sought out a place where success was possible. Paris was filled with opportunity and skilled people he could learn from. He put himself in the right environment for success. By watching this video, you are doing something similar. You're placing yourself in an environment of learning, of positivity, of ambition. As I like to say, your environment is stronger than your willpower. So keep curating an environment. Those are your friends, content, mentors that pull you forward. That's one reason why I make these videos every single day, to help you stay inspired and keep growing. So give yourself credit for being here. You're feeding your mind with stories and strategies that build you up. You're investing in your success. Every bit of knowledge, every dose of inspiration becomes a part of you. And guess what? That compounds over time. Keep doing it, and one day someone will look at your story for inspiration. Louis Vuitton turned pain into power, dreams into reality. His legacy lives on not just in luxury products, but in the lesson that anyone can rise above their circumstances. So the next time you see that LV logo, let it remind you of a kid who refused to accept mediocrity, a kid who believed in his dream when it made no sense to. Let it remind you that you have the same potential inside too. If Louis could do it, why not you? Your journey may be different, but you have your own mountains to climb and distances to travel. And I believe that if you have the courage to start, the perseverance to continue, and the willingness to learn, nothing can stop you. To watch the incredible story of Giorgio Armani, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there. Giorgio Armani was 41 years old when he started his own fashion label. He initially planned to be a doctor, not a designer. His love for fashion came when he got a job dressing store displays and saw what the customers were reacting to.